Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. We are kicking off my best of the year, end of the year series, starting with the worst of the year. I figured we'd start with the negative first, furthest away from Christmas. So I have compiled here in front of me the things that I did not like this year or that I kind of regret buying or trying. We'll go through the reasons for those. There's a lot of reasons. Some of them just downright were terrible. Some of them were just too expensive. But I've got a good mix in here. High-end drugstore. We're gonna go through it all before we do that. If you are a new visitor here, very special welcome to you. Thank you for stopping by. Please consider subscribing and make sure that your notifications are turned on. And with that said, we have quite a few things to get into, so let's get to it. Okay, so we're gonna get started with foundations slash base products. I've got a lot of these. I was surprised at how many I tried out this year and how many didn't work out for me. Let's start with this one. This is from the brand Live Tinted. This is a Hue Glow. It's basically a liquid highlighter. Now this is so beautiful. I am sad that I do not like this. It's a little bit too gold for me. There it is on the back of my hand. I don't know how well you're seeing that. I feel like my lights are really bright today, but more than anything, it's not even the color of this. It's very pretty. It's just so greasy feeling. There is no way that I could put this on my face. I even tried during the summer to put this like on my shoulder blades when I was like out at the pool. And it was even too greasy for that. I just did not like it very much. I have used it a couple of times, putting a couple drops of this in just like a body lotion, which is my favorite way to use this. But even then, at that point, I feel like it's diluted so much, it doesn't really do much of anything. It was kind of expensive, even though I got this on sale. It had great reviews, and I'm assuming that's because it looks so pretty on the skin, but I mean there is a definite oily texture to this that just does not get along with my skin or with the other makeup that I'm wearing with it. I also tried out this from Revolution Beauty. This is their Super Dewy Skin Tinted Moisturizer. I just did not like this. It had no coverage, which I wasn't expecting a ton of coverage out of this, but I mean, I actually think something along the lines of like my Halo Glow has more coverage than this, but it didn't have the glow that my Halo Glow has. So I kind of just don't have a use for this. Now, if you have great skin, you just need a little bit of evening out, maybe you would get along with this. I'm kind of sad that it didn't work for me because it was relatively affordable. I think I may have got mine on sale. It has almost 2 ounces in it, 1.85 ounces. That's so much product. I hate that I have to get rid of this because I just know I'll never use it. I even tried mixing this in with some other foundations and other formulas, and I just didn't find it to do anything good for me. So this is definitely one that I will be decluttering soon. Another foundation that didn't work out for me is from the brand Pretty Smart. I really enjoyed this brand. Most of the things that I tried out from this brand this last year, a lot of them really impressed me. In fact, you'll probably see them coming up in some favorites videos, but the foundation did not work for me. Now, granted, I did get the shade a little bit wrong. I went with 320 Light Medium, but it wasn't even the shade match of this because I have tried lightening this up with just a tiny bit of something very, very light, and it's just the formula. I just didn't like the formula of this. Felt like it kind of broke apart on me, didn't last very well. Anytime I would like rub my nose, I would see like a smear mark on my face as if it was just not like locked into my skin. It was not setting down at all, even with some powder on top. And that's pretty rare for me. I don't have a lot of break apart issues with most foundations that I try. This was just one that did not work out very well for me. The next one, I'm a little bit afraid to mention because I know so many people love this foundation. TikTok, YouTube, I feel like all the places, all the influencers love this one, and I just do not. It's the e.l.f. Soft Glam Foundation. I did officially pick up a new shade of this because I thought it was just the shade match maybe I didn't like. Now, I still haven't found the perfect shade, but even with like getting the shades very close, I just don't love this. Now, I don't hate it. It's not something I think I would like quickly declutter and would never put on my skin like this. I think it's decent, but the more I've tried it, the more I just realize this doesn't have the best coverage. I would say it's a light medium coverage for me, and I really need a medium coverage foundation. And that, in addition to the shades just being a little bit off. I don't know, maybe I'll try a 4th shade and see if I find the perfect shade if I like this, but it's really just the coverage level. Every time I put this on my skin, as I look at my skin throughout the day or later on, I just feel like I'm having a bad skin day, and I don't think it's a coincidence. Like, it's obviously just this foundation and me just don't get along all that well. It's not the worst I've ever tried, but I don't love it as much as everybody else seems to. I wish I did because it's so cheap. Okay, let's go to a concealer. So I tried out the Re-Love by Revolution concealer. You can find this brand if you look real close because there's not a lot of products in this range at Walmart. This is their super concealer. I have shades C6 and C11.2. This concealer, The shades were a little bit weird. This one was a very gray cast. This one was very kind of orangey, and mixing them together, I got the shade okay, but the formula was just not amazing. I like the Pretty Smart concealer a lot more than I liked this one, and you don't get any product inside here. That's the biggest reason this was a fail for me, is when I mean, it looks like a regular sized concealer. You get like 0.1 ounces of product in here. That is less than some minis that I have tried before. Like, it's a little bit misleading. Granted, you only pay $5 for these, but you kind of expect this to have more product than it appears to have, which I just feel like that's such a misleading thing for brands to do, to put something in packaging like this, and then what do you know, you get almost nothing inside. So more than anything, that's what I'm really bugged about this, but I also just didn't think it was like the best drugstore concealer I've ever tried. There's a lot better drugstore concealers out there, even around the $5 mark. This is not my favorite. Okay, I have two mascaras. One is from that Pretty Smart brand. This is the Falsies mascara. They had two other types of mascara. I haven't tried either of those, but I'm kind of hesitant to, because this was such a fail for me. More than anything, this burned my eyes when I put it on, which I've never experienced before. Now, once it kind of dried and set, it didn't bother me as much, but I also didn't think it looked the best on my lashes. It didn't wear the best. I just generally did not love this mascara. It also doesn't have very good reviews online. I think one or two of their other ones had better reviews than this one, so maybe look on the website and find out which mascara had better reviews if you're looking into this brand. Also, a sort of fail for me, although this one's more like a soft fail, is the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer Mascara. Now, this one actually wore really well. It's a brown mascara. I can't get behind a brown mascara. I feel like there was maybe a minute where it was kind of a trend. Maybe it still is. I feel like I'm a little bit out of the loop these days, guys, honestly. But I just feel like it's kind of pointless. I mean, I've been using black mascara since I was 15. I just can't stop now. The formula is actually pretty good. I actually think it wore pretty well. It removed relatively easily, but it didn't flake or smudge on me. And that's always a major bonus for a mascara. But there's just a lot better ones out there, even from the drugstore. Right. I do want to mention the Easy Blur Primer. I have been trying and trying to convince myself that this is doing anything amazing for me. I do like the Easy Blur foundation. I think it's a good foundation. This has such good reviews. So many people seem to think this just does amazing things for them. I think it might just be the feel of a silicone-y kind of, it does say it's silicone free, but it has that silicone feel, that kind of blurring feel on your skin. And maybe I just don't like that feel, but I don't notice it blurring out anything underneath my other foundations. I feel like I've given it a good test, a good effort with a lot of different foundations, and even the same foundation that isn't just the Huda one, several times in a row to try and figure out, like, is it doing something, is it not? And I'm just not seeing it. Maybe I'm just blind. I do have bad eyesight, so if I'm not wearing my glasses, it's possible I'm not noticing the subtle differences that it's making. But frankly, I wear my glasses all the time, unless I'm filming, so that's probably not it. I think I just don't love this primer. I'm also not a primer girl unless it's something that gives me hydration. So maybe it's just not my thing. I'm not experienced enough to recognize the magic that is happening. I know a lot of people love it. Head over to Sephora and read the reviews on this thing and you will see that a lot of people love this primer. I don't know. I've tried the foundation with and without the primer, and I feel like it does the same thing whether I'm using the primer or not. Okay, you guys knew I was gonna mention this. I just used this in my last video. The Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit palette. I don't hate this palette either. It's so expensive. I think that's the biggest thing that makes me always regret these palettes. This is my second one. I should say all of these, like I get them all the time. No, this was my second one after knowing that Ghost palette and me just, there's always been something in the back of my mind that as much as I think this is a pretty blush, I paid $90 for this thing. That's insane to me. Now, granted, I will give Hourglass this. I am surprised with all the prices that have gone up over the last couple of years. I mean, I feel like everything is more expensive these days, at least by a couple bucks. I'm surprised these are not now $95. So good on you, Hourglass, for not increasing your prices. I think you would just scare people away. That is way too close to the $100 mark. The powders are beautiful. I know so many people love these, and I kind of get why. I just can't get over that price tag. It took me years to get over paying $69 for a Natasha Denona palette, and I think that's where I'm capped. I just can't go past that price mark and not feel guilty about it, or just feel like I'm getting scammed. Okay, I was gonna mention this. This is the LA Girl Marble Blush Stick. I tried this out about 4 months ago. It's not a bad formula. In fact, I am wearing this on my cheeks today, and I think it's very pretty. there's just very little product inside here, and the packaging when I got it had kind of fallen apart. So this falls out of the top. So if you were traveling with this at all, it can make a very big mess. It's not as bad as I thought it was though. I mean, I initially thought like the formula's okay. It reminds me a lot of the Persona formula. Very pigmented, very satin creamy feeling. So it's not as slippery or tacky on your cheeks. It's more of a like, it has more of a dry down to it. So if you generally don't get along with a lot of cream blushes because they feel too sticky or slippery on your cheeks, this one will not. And that's partly because it is so pigmented, but it blends out great. I would recommend starting on the back of your hand and then kind of using a brush, or starting with the brush and then going onto the back of your hand and then tapping it on. But it's more than anything, it's just the packaging. I picked mine up on sale for closer to $4, which is a good price. So maybe if you are new to the cream blushes and looking for an affordable option, I actually think this was a good place to start. Just be aware the packaging is a little bit sketchy and the color is very vibrant. I mean, that you're gonna have to be very careful if you have fair skin with a color like this. By the way, this is the shade Hot Nights. This one I actually think is a bigger fail. And again, this one, I have similar feelings to how I feel about the Hourglass palette. I just can't believe I spent so much on this thing. It's from House Labs. This is their Color Fuse Glassy Blush Balm in Glassy Hibiscus. Now, I actually kind of like this for my lips. I don't love it for my cheeks. It just is kind of so-so. The color's pretty. It's very balmy. So this is one, whereas this is more like a satiny. This one has a lot of tack to it. So especially on my cheeks, I'm gonna feel this. It's gonna feel a little bit sticky, which I even don't mind that much, but it was expensive. This was like 40 bucks, I think. There's not even a ton of product inside this one. And if I use this on my lips, which is what I would do, so that's all the product that you get. That is so much money for a tiny bit of balm that is not super pigmented, that if I use this on my lips, it is going to run out so fast, and I cannot get over the price for a basic kind of slightly tinted lip balm. They have good reviews. I know some people love these. I loved the House Labs powder blush, but this one I just feel like was kind of a rip-off. I feel like there are things that are similar to that at the drugstore that I like a lot better that are not nearly as expensive. Okay, this right here is from e.l.f. This is the Cream Glide Lip Liner. So I decluttered this and I pulled it out of my declutter bin for my recent e.l.f. video. These are way too creamy. These, if you have any lines in your lips at all, they will feather right into your lines and they will wear off in about 30 seconds. I'm very picky with my lip liner formula. If it's not gonna be long wearing, I'm not gonna like you. I want you to stay in place for at least a good 3 or 4 hours. And if you don't, it's just not worth the trouble. As cheap as this was, I just think just use a lip balm or a lipstick. This is not gonna last any longer than those. All right, we're just about there. Just a handful of things left. First off, I wanted to mention the Essence, the highlighter. Now, I love this highlighter, but I'm so disappointed that they discontinued this past year. Maybe I'm the only one in the world that loves these. I have heard from a few of you that you didn't think these lasted very long on you. I know there's a couple other people out there that I feel like have raved about these as well, but they discontinued them. As much as I love the brand Essence, I also get so frustrated with Essence because this happens to me all the time with this brand. They'll come out with something that I think is amazing, and then a year later, they don't make it anymore. Foundations, cream eyeshadows, lip products. I mean, across the board, other than their, let's say their Princess Mascara, which we all love, they just go through things so quickly. It's obviously just kind of their brand model. That's kind of how they do things, which I kind of get. I'm very sad about it because I feel like they came out with a great highlighter formula, and I feel like powdered highlighter formulas are hard to find from the drugstore. Anyone else feel like this? You can find all kinds of liquid glow and liquid illuminators, but it's hard to find a good powder highlighter from a drugstore brand. So I was sad to see Essence discontinue one that is so cheap and so good. Okay, I have a single shadow from ColourPop. This is relatively new to me. This is in the brand Sailor. I have tried out so many of these cream shadows over the years because I love Ladybird. I've talked about it several times on my channel. I am wearing it on my eyes today. It is such a beautiful, like pearly, warm, has a bit of pink and peach in it. It's not overly icy, but it's nice and bright. It has almost like a blue undertone to it that really brightens up your eyes, but it's not too blue to where you look iridescent. It is beautiful on the eyes. I love this one. It looks good with anything. And I always think maybe there's another shade that I'm gonna like as much as Ladybird, and I never like them as much. This is one that I tried out that just is, I don't know. It's not quite as punchy. It has too much blue in it. It doesn't show up quite as much. It's just not as good. If you're gonna get one of these, go for Ladybird. It's the best one out there. I've tried about 10 of them now, and I always come back to thinking this one is 10 times better than all the other ones that I've tried. Okay, a couple more eyeshadows that we're gonna talk about, and these ones are, I have mixed feelings about these. They're not necessarily fails, except for this one, the e.l.f. Perfect 10 eyeshadow palette. I think this one was in like smoky neutrals. This palette, the mattes were good. Some of the shimmers were okay, and some of the shimmers were terrible. This shimmer right here, which is probably the shade that I would use the most, this kind of like peachy nude shimmer, is so weak and chalky, and when I try to put it on my eyes, it just like crumbles up. Ugh. I mean, those little bite-sized palettes from e.l.f., all the shimmers in those I thought were great formulas. I don't know where they went wrong with this specific shimmer formula. And besides that, this palette was way too cool toned for me, but it's disappointing to me. I feel like so many brands, even drugstore brands, have figured out how to do good eyeshadows, even for cheap. I mean, Wet n Wild can do it. ColourPop's been doing it for a very long time. So when I find a formula that's such a dud, that specific shade and a couple of the other shades, and just how like gray they were, this was just it was a big fail for me. Maybe I should have known that going in, but okay. I do want to mention the Master Matte Neutrals palette for Makeup by Mario. I've kind of been ranting about this palette throughout the year because it was very expensive. I still hold by that. I mean, when I'm paying over $50 for an eyeshadow palette, I expect to get really beautiful packaging and lots of variety and something that looks more like this, you know, like sparkly and lots of different shades. And this was just so basic for me. It's all matte, which I should have known. I don't wear all mattes ever. I can't help but put a shimmer on my lid at all times. I will be 100 years old and still be if I'm alive, still be putting shimmer on my lid because it's like a compulsion for me. Plus I just felt like it was kind of basic. Everything it pulls more cool than it looks. It looks very like basically neutral, but it does pull more cool tone than I even initially anticipated. I will never use this gray shade. In fact, I've never even touched it. I just don't like gray eyeshadow. But I will say this, I've been reaching for this more lately, for just a real basic, like something in the crease and then put my highlighter on my lid, run out the door kind of everyday look. And it's growing on me, guys. Now, I still would not go back and buy this again because for the types of shades that they are, you can find these in any other palette, even though the formulas are great. I don't know that it's worth the price that I paid for it, but it is something that I'm getting a lot of use out of now. I've also been using this row down here, besides the gray, to kind of do a powder, like smudged liner wing that I've really been into lately, especially if I put my half lashes on like I'm wearing today. It's so attractive looking for your eyes to just kind of have a smudgy little baby wing and then a little bit of a like corner lash to give your eyes a little bit of lift, especially if you're older. Love that look. And this palette does a great job with those. These mattes are super pigmented, which I love. Granted, I have these in other palettes, so I'm kind of giving this one, a month or two ago, I would have said definitely this is going to be in my fails at the end of the year. I don't want to say it's a favorite yet, but it's starting to grow on me more, and I'm starting to realize how often I reach for this thing just for basic things like that. So maybe we'll call this one a partial fail that's slowly working its way into my, maybe not my heart, but into my rotation. Okay, last but not least, I'm gonna mention the Icy Nude palette. Now, I kind of like this palette. I mentioned in the last video that I thought it was very kind of a high maintenance palette. Like, it's very difficult to use. The shimmers you have to really be careful with because you'll get a lot of fallout. The mattes are so strong and impactful. You can almost overdo it sometimes and get a very stark kind of look. If you're looking for an everyday kind of palette, this is definitely not it. Like, this is going to give you some very intense kind of snow princess looks. There are some beautiful shades in here, but there are a lot in here that I don't love. And that combined with the price, I just feel like once again, I fell for a Huda Beauty large palette that I just ended up thinking was not worth the price or the hype. So I would not go back and buy this again. That said, say that Alter Ego was to maybe dupe this palette, I think I would like it a lot more. Like, I would be willing to spend $20 on this palette. I think I'll use it on occasion. Just one that if I could go back, I'd probably pass on this one and save my money. It just is, I don't know. just not a me kind of palette more than anything. All right, you guys, I think that is everything. Those are all of my fails and kind of almost fails for this last year. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. I know there were probably a couple of things that got decluttered in my last declutter that I would have mentioned in this video. I'm thinking of one thing in particular, the Physicians Formula color correctors. I sort of tried those, but they were just like way over my head. And I feel like I'm not a dummy when it comes to makeup. I've been doing this for a little while, but color correcting is just something I don't think I'll ever really bother with. But hopefully I got everything else. Hopefully you found this video helpful or entertaining. Stay tuned for the best of series that will be coming up. I can't wait for that one. Those are the ones that I most look forward to. So make sure that you are subscribed to my channel so you can see those year-end videos coming very soon. Thank you guys for stopping by today. I hope you guys are doing well. But that's gonna do it for now. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye. By the way, this shirt, I bought the shirt for like $7 at Walmart today. It's so bright. I mean, my eyes are up here.